Welcome to Politics for Patriots. Here's your host, the eviscerator of progressive nonsense, the executioner of imbecility, and the grim reaper of BS, Eddie Zipper.
Students at Yale walked out of their classes in protest to demand a full and impartial investigation of Brett Kavanaugh. I don't know about you, but nothing worries me more than rich kids refusing to learn their class materials at an Ivy League institution. I mean, it sends chills right down my spine. Why? Oh, why would they do this to us?
Our students are highly entitled wusses.
Okay, well, that's a pretty good explanation. But good news for the students at Yale, they are going to get an investigation. Jeff Flake voted to let the Kavanaugh confirmation out of committee on the condition that the FBI perform a new background investigation on Brett Kavanaugh. We now go live to the FBI for an update on their progress.
Found anything yet? Nothing yet, sir. How about you? Not a thing, sir. What about you guys? We ain't found shit.
The FBI investigation that is going to happen and is going to be limited to 1 week will not uncover any new information. It is not a criminal investigation, though I fully expect Democrats to pretend that it is. All that will actually happen is that the FBI will go and interview the party goers. It will be a crime if they lie. The FBI will collect their statements. Then they will add those statements to Brett Kavanaugh's background investigation file. This will not be an episode of CSI. The FBI is not going to track down the house and use forensic evidence to figure out what actually happened in that house in 1982. It'll just be a batch of 302s with reports of what happened. Okay, it will be the exact same investigation that the Senate Judiciary Committee performed. It is a completely redundant investigation. The partygoers already made sworn statements under the penalty of perjury for the committee. They are just now going to do the exact same thing for the FBI. Should their story change, they will be in violation of the law. All right, so if the FBI wanted to, they could do the investigation like this. Step 1, Senate Judiciary Committee gives the FBI all the sworn statements. Step 2, FBI sends those statements to the White House to be added to Kavanaugh's file. Step 3, White House shares the results with the Judiciary Committee. You see that? It's 3 steps to end up right exactly where you started.
It's circular. It's like a carousel. You pay the quarter, you get on the horse. It goes up and down and around. Circular, circle, with the music, the flow. All good things.
Of course, the Democrats never actually wanted this investigation. They simply wanted to try to run out the clock on Kavanaugh or intimidate him into withdrawing. You can already see them trying to get out in front of the FBI results. They are doing that because they know the results are going to be disappointing to their case. Chris Murphy, Democratic senator from Connecticut, tweeted this yesterday. Yes, of course there should be an FBI investigation, but whatever they find doesn't change the fact that Kavanaugh, especially after his performance yesterday, is the most dangerous Supreme Court pick of our lifetime. Okay, so let me get this straight. FBI results don't matter. Yesterday, FBI investigation was the most important thing in the whole wide world. Today, it means less than 0. That makes sense, because Democrats aren't any angrier at Kavanaugh today than they were at the beginning of this hearing. How weird is that? It's because they go straight to the end of the world on every issue. Their outrage is so wildly unmeasured all the time that they didn't have any higher point to go to. Right? Kavanaugh was the end of the world the day he was nominated. And he's the end of the world today. Right? There's no escalation in how the Democrats feel about him. All right, so I played the first 2 minutes of the Kavanaugh hearing like several times on the show before, so I'm not going to do that again. I'm just going to hope that you'll stipulate that we all know the Senate Democrats turned the hearings into a circus. Not a fun circus with animals and cotton candy, but whatever circus Pennywise used to work at. And we all know about the allegation storm that happened next.
The storm blew me away. Blew the whole circus away.
So that's creepy Pennywise the clown there from Stephen King's It. Personally, I think that the Democrats should ditch the donkey as their logo and go with Pennywise the clown, because he better typifies the circus that they are creating all around them at all times ever since the election of Donald Trump. So the allegations, 36 years old, no time, no place, no corroborating witnesses, no evidence. And so the Democrats tell us that we must believe the allegations. We must believe the allegations. We are to understand that there must be no questioning of the allegations. There must be no dissecting them. They must not be approached with any skepticism whatsoever. If they are, then we hate women. Okay, that is what they're setting up. Either you just believe on faith or you hate women, and there's nothing in the middle. There's no middle ground. All right, take a look at the Women's March Twitter account if you don't believe me. The Women's March. They have pictures of Republican senators on the Judiciary Committee with big red text blocks over them that say, Senator Ben Sasse, rape apologist. Senator Jeff Flake, rape apologist. Senator Orrin Hatch, rape apologist. That is the price of dissent. That is the price of questioning allegations that the Democrats like. Even though we've seen lives thrown into upheaval by smears with accusations that turned out to be verifiably false in the past, Duke LaCrosse. Imagine that case, the Duke LaCrosse case, 36 years later with no time or place. I mean, those guys wouldn't have had a chance. 88 professors at their own school were declaring that they were definitely guilty. After all, I mean, they were college-age boys who drank beer. They must also be rapists. Nope. That allegation was totally false. All right, the woman lied and the prosecutor enabled. And he got disbarred. End of story. Smearing the senators as rape apologists because they require some piece of corroborating evidence before they are willing to destroy a person's life. I mean, do you want to live in that country? The country where accusations are automatically true? The country where anyone can be destroyed at any moment without a shred of evidence? The idea that we should passionately believe someone just because the charges are so serious is one of the most anti-American philosophies I have ever heard in my life. But that's the story the Senate Democrats are going with. You have to believe. These allegations come with no time, no place, no corroborating witnesses, and no evidence. We are simply supposed to be moved by the emotion involved, right? As if emotion is an acceptable substitute for evidence. All right, when did this happen? Sometime in 1982. Mr. Kavanaugh, where were you in 1982? Well, here's my calendar. That's the best you can do for an alibi when you have to come up with an alibi for 1982. Right? The question is not, where were you last Saturday night? That's a question that could possibly be answered satisfactorily. 1 week later, Mr. Kavanaugh, where were you last Saturday night? Oh, me and Squee went to the movies to see Rocky III. See how easy that is? 36 years later, where were you the whole year of 1982? Go ahead, account for your whereabouts in 1982. So there is no time. There is no place. Where did it happen? Some house? This crime has no place. No time, no place. So the only real facts of the case are the people who were there. Not one of them, under penalty of perjury, remembers the existence of this party. Not one. So no time, no place, no witnesses. Every single person who was there, including her lifelong friend Leland Kaiser, have no recollection of this party existing. Not one single person in this house remembers this party. Leland Kaiser doesn't recall ever being at a party with, or even ever having met, Brett Kavanaugh at any time in her entire life. Not one person that forenamed as being there corroborates the existence of this party. So there's no time, no place, no witnesses, no details. If the Republican senators had questioned Ford, they would have had her saying, "I don't remember," over and over. "I don't remember, I don't recall." But they didn't question her. They made the mistake of believing the mainstream media lie that it is not okay for old white men to question a woman. That's what we kept being told. Oh, the optics are no good. Old white men shouldn't ask questions of a woman. Okay? These are not old white men. They are senators who represent millions of Americans of every race, age, and gender. Voters chose them. Why is the media telling millions of voters that their senators are not fit or qualified to ask questions? Last time I checked, they're all at least 30 years old. All of them have lived in the United States for at least 9 years. They were all inhabitants of their state at the time of their election. They were all democratically elected. Those are the only requirements. Take a look at the Constitution, Article 1, Section 3. There's no race requirement. There's no gender requirement. So why is the media telling millions of voters that it's not okay for their senators to take part in the process? Please explain that to me. They're just saying, sorry, South Carolina, your senator can't ask questions because he's an old white guy. Sorry, people of Nebraska. Sorry, Iowa. Sorry twice, Texas. Sorry twice, Utah. Sorry, Arizona, Idaho, North Carolina, and Louisiana. That's not 11 old white guys that you are attacking. It is 65 million people who are represented by those guys. They were democratically chosen by the people of their state as representatives in the Senate. So no time, no place, no witnesses, no details, no evidence. Literally not one shred of evidence exists that this party actually took place, let alone the incident at the party. Literally not one shred of evidence. That's why, listen to me now, this is so important. That is why the burden of proof has to be on Mrs. Ford. Kavanaugh cannot prove a big general negative. It's absolutely impossible. If there was a date, he could prove it. Kavanaugh's burden here is proving he wasn't at a house, no specific house, just any house near the country club, proving he wasn't at a house on a night in probably 1982. That is the burden of proof if it belongs on Brett Kavanaugh. That is insane. I don't know what country demands that burden of the accused, but I know I don't want to live there. It is insane. And it was obvious that it was insane when you heard the Senate debate yesterday. The Democrats were going deep into things written in yearbooks, searching for any piece of circumstantial evidence that they might be able to find. Ha-ha! Someone wrote about beer. Therefore you like beer. Therefore you got super drunk all the time. Therefore you are guilty of this assault. It's a slippery slope. It's like those DirecTV commercials When you're mad at cable, you blow off steam. When you blow off steam, you get an eye patch. When you have an eye patch, you look tough. When you look tough, people want to see how tough. When people want to see how tough, you end up in a roadside ditch. Don't end up in a roadside ditch. Get rid of cable and get DirecTV. I know that commercial by heart because I am a college professor, and I teach students about logical fallacies. One of those fallacies is called the slippery slope. And every time I teach it, I show a video of that DirecTV commercial. And that is exactly what Democrats are trying to use against Brett Kavanaugh, a slippery slope. Oh, he wrote this little thing in his yearbook. Therefore, through this series of seemingly connected logical statements that are not logically connected at all, he is guilty of this assault. Right? He has cable, ergo, he must have wound up in a roadside ditch in 1982. Do not tell me that I have to believe victims automatically. Don't tell me that I have to shut up, Mazie Hirono.
It's the men in this country, and I just want to say to the men in this country, just shut up and step up.
That's Senator Hirono, but it's not just Senator Hirono, because the Democratic Party official account tweeted out this quote, and they said, quote, amen. So this is the whole Democratic Party. Just shut up, men. Men of this country. With all due respect, Senator, and with all due respect, Democratic Party, which, you know what, how much respect is due to the Democratic Party, right? Zero. Nothing. So, with all due respect to Senator Hirono and no due respect to the Democratic Party, I will not shut up. Why do they want me to shut up? Because Democrats want to create a world where accusations are just true. Their accusations, anyway. Examining the facts is sexist. Asking the accuser questions is sexist. Skepticism is sexist. Just believe accusations automatically or you are sexist. You are a rape apologist. That's the Women's March. You are a rape apologist because you don't take these accusations on faith. Skepticism is sexist. That is un-American. But the Senate Democrats keep trying to make me believe that some accusations are so important that they just magically transcend evidence and due process. Now, this has happened before in American history. Let's fire up the flux capacitor, hop in the Wayback Machine, and take a trip to another era when it was super important to believe accusations, whether evidence existed or not. Let's go back to the era of Joe McCarthy, the Red Scare. The government is up to here with communists.
It's the end of the world!
Were there Communist Party members in the government? Yes. Did they do serious damaging things? Yes. But to this day, nobody really knows who was or wasn't a communist because it was obscured by the hysteria. See, if you really wanted to get rid of the real communists, if that was really your objective, you would want to avoid hysteria, not cause it, because blind justice and mass paranoia are oil and water, not peanut butter and jelly. Blind justice is born from the Constitution and our laws. It sets down how we determine guilt and innocence. It lays out a process that is due to anyone who is accused of any crime, no matter how serious that crime is. It's pretty simple, and America works best when everyone respects those core principles of justice. Where does mass hysteria and paranoia come from? Politics. Politicians politicize crimes to smear their opponents while at the same time making the average voter feel like they're the ones protecting you. Fear becomes a racket. Politicians create it and then profit off of it. It's like the mob selling kneecap insurance. If you don't buy it, you are 100% likely to endure a severe knee injury and soon. So you better get in on the ground floor of the kneecap insurance industry. get the premium coverage. Democrats are like Gaston from Beauty and the Beast, right? Belle tells everyone in the village about the beast, and Gaston says, "He'll make off with your children in the night. Nobody will be safe until his head is on my wall. I say we kill the beast." And all the villagers get their torches, and they get all fired up. And they go and they sing a whole song about all the bad things that the beast will do if they don't go and kill the beast right now. Because...
there's no justice like angry mob justice.
So here's how it happened with McCarthy. It starts with the election of 1948. You cannot understand McCarthyism without understanding the election of 1948. Pollsters stopped polling because Dewey won long before a single vote had been cast. All the major newspapers wrote Truman off for dead. It was absolutely an impossibility that Truman would win that election. But he did. You've seen the famous picture of Truman holding up the newspaper with the headline, "Dewey defeats Truman." But he didn't. The country was in absolute shock over the election results, especially the Republicans. Right after that, you get McCarthy. "Here's a list of 200 communists in the State Department. We're going to root out all the communists." See, this doesn't mean there weren't a handful of communists somewhere in the government. It didn't mean the problem didn't exist at all. But McCarthy did not want the finding of communists to be about evidence. He wanted the allegations to be enough. Because being a communist was so important a crime that there could be no due process. It transcended due process. If you questioned accusations that someone was a communist, you weren't doing it because you believe in due process or the presumption of innocence. No, never. You were doing it because you were a dirty pinko communist too. So David McCullough, in his Pulitzer Prize-winning biography of Harry Truman, describes McCarthyism as an outlet for Republican upset and shock over the results of the election of 1948. I had no doubt that that was the case, but I asked an absolute Truman expert about it, Dr. Alonzo Hamby. I have never met this guy in my life. I have no idea what his politics are, and he doesn't know who I am. I do know that he is one of the premier experts on Truman in this country. So I sent him an email and asked him about McCullough's claim. I asked, "Do you believe McCarthyism on the Republican side was in any way connected to the 1948 election shock?" Here's what he emailed me back. "McCullough's point is a fair one. By 1950, the Republicans had dropped 5 presidential elections in a row and were especially frustrated by Truman's 1948 upset. There was practically zero substance to McCarthy's charges, but he capitalized on the tensions and frustrations of the early Cold War and seemed to show a way back to power." That is exactly what is happening now. Okay? I didn't need McCullough or Dr. Hamby to tell me that because I already knew. It was obvious from the context. Jump cut to today. It is the exact same thing happening on the Democratic side. Kavanaugh may as well be sitting in front of the Committee on Un-American Activities. The crime is so bad here that no evidence is required to convict. If you question the allegations, it's not because you love due process and the presumption of innocence. It's not because you think allegations need a time, place, corroborating witnesses, and any piece of evidence at all. It is because you hate women. It is because you are a rape apologist. I mean, can't you see Joe McCarthy flipping through an old yearbook, finding all this evidence that someone was definitely a communist in high school? That's what the Democrats are doing right now, right in front of our faces. The truth is, there is no crime so big that it transcends evidence and due process. Nobody, not one single person, is entitled to be believed by others. Nobody's accusation from 36 years ago must be presumed true without any shred of corroboration. The Democrats have absolutely gone off the rails. The shocker election of 2016 just knocked all their screws loose, and they have become unceasing McCarthyists. They are mongering fear all the time. It was this way from the moment that President Trump won that election. How many times have you heard that it's the end of democracy? 1 million? Tax cuts are Armageddon. Trump will provoke North Korea into launching nukes. Trump colluded with Russia. I mean, does anybody believe that smear anymore? Yes. McCarthyite Adam Schiff still believes it. Nobody else does. Listen, net neutrality is the end of the internet. Agent Pie is getting death threats because they're going to end the net neutrality rule that was like 5 minutes old. Netflix is going to cost $50 a movie now. Like, that just goes against common sense. That is nonsense. It was always nonsense. It was just fear-mongering. The Democratic Party right now is a fear-mongering disaster. Finish the FBI investigation. When we find out that nobody's story changed, stop the nonsense and confirm Kavanaugh. Because here is a warning. If Kavanaugh is not confirmed because of an accusation with no time, no place, no witnesses, and no evidence, an accusation that he categorically denies, if that allegation serves the purpose of keeping Kavanaugh off the court, it is open season on everyone. Don't let that happen. All right, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please listen on iTunes, subscribe on iTunes. If you get a chance, if you could leave me a review on iTunes, that would be fantastic. Thank you so much for listening. That's it. I'm out of here.
We'll have to hire multicultural empathizers, build a new safe space.
You just listened to Politics for Patriots with Eddie Zipper. Email the show at patriots@eddiezipper.com and please subscribe.